everybody, and welcome back to Flock Talk. Today we are going to be doing another episode of flight exercises, today being part 2. If you have not watched part 1 already, I would definitely recommend starting there before taking on any of these exercises. It would definitely benefit you if your bird has some of the strengthening benefits and confidence that comes from those first few exercises. So if you have a decently confident flyer who has a little bit of difficulty with their flight control or maybe doesn't think all that clearly while they're flying around, these exercises will be where you want to go. This first exercise is a pretty simple one and is kind of a spin-off of some of the things we were doing in episode 1. All we're going to be doing for this exercise is some very basic, straightforward recalls just to start. I'm doing this to familiarize Mia with recalling, making sure she understands that this is what we're doing today, and so she is reliably aiming for my hand over and over. We're giving her a little bit of a warm-up, getting those wings flapping without straining them too much right off the hop. Once she is quick and rapid with her recalls and she 100% understands that today we are doing some flying, we are going to step forwards into our actual exercise. For this first bit here, I'm just going to start gently moving my hand upwards. Now, the first time Mia flies at me and I move my hand, I want to make sure of two things. One, that I'm not moving my hand too high, and two, that I'm moving my hand as soon as she has taken off. If I wait too long and move my hand when Mia is right in front of it, it's going to be very scary, it's going to be very startling, and she's not going to have much time to think. When you are first introducing your bird to a moving target to land on, you want to make sure that they have plenty of time to process that information and choose a correct flight path. So for these first few reps, you just want to make sure that you are moving your hand as soon as your bird leaves that perch, and you're just moving it a very tiny bit. Nothing too big and scary, nothing too drastic. Over time, as your bird gets comfortable with that, you can start to move your hand a little bit more until you're able to hold it right over your head. The whole point of this is that your bird is taking off, they are watching their landing perch or your target or your hand move, and they are deciding to change their flight path and learn how to land accurately. As your bird gets better at this, you will be able to wait a little bit longer each time before you move your hand. So say you start and you're moving your hand as soon as the bird leaves the perch. The next few repetitions, you might move your hand when the bird's about halfway between you and the perch, and then the last stage would be moving your hand when the bird is right in front of it. So your bird is seeing their landing target or your hand move, and they are quickly changing their flight path and deciding how to land safely. If you are doing this exercise and your bird misses your hand or gets confused and flies off more than twice in a row, take a step back and reevaluate what you're doing. If a bird is doing that, it generally means they aren't having enough time to think and process, or they're getting scared and confused. Some easy changes to make with that might be just to move your hand a little bit less, or to make sure you're moving your hand sooner when they've taken off. This way your bird has more time to accurately judge how to land, they're able to think critically about the way that your hand is moving, and being able to choose a proper flight path. You can increase the difficulty of this in a wide variety of ways, the most challenging of which would be to move your hand as soon as the bird is right about to land, shoot your hand up in a very straight vertical movement, and the bird will have to adjust, shoot straight up, and land up there. This is a very good exercise for birds who struggle with their landings or don't think all that much while they're flying. If your bird is very used to landing on things that don't move, they're kind of on autopilot flying from point A to point B, and they'll just go as fast as they can and they'll just kind of crash land. This way the bird has to actively be thinking and processing while they're flying. Exercise number 2 is very much the same thing, but instead of going upwards, we will be moving our hand downwards. This will exercise a different set of muscles as they are now having to slow themselves down and adjust to be able to descend at an appropriate angle. We will be doing this in the exact same way we were doing the first step, but do be cautious that you are moving incredibly slowly and you are giving your bird plenty of time to look at your hands moving and process properly. If your bird isn't given enough time to watch the target moving before being able to land on it, they will probably just crash straight into your chest, or they will panic and flutter away. You want to make sure that your bird has plenty of time between takeoff and landing to see your hand moving and adjust accordingly. Otherwise, this exercise is virtually the same as the first one. We're going to be moving our hands first when the bird initially takes off from the perch, and then as they get better, we will increase how far down we move and moving it with their proximity to our hand. This one is a little bit trickier for birds to do in general, so you may not be able to make as much progress with this in terms of how far down and how quick you can move your hand as you may be able to with the ascending one. But with a lot of practice and a good amount of time put into it, your bird can definitely develop those very strong flight muscles and be able to adjust their landings and be able to slow down and control themselves a lot better. This last exercise is is an extremely important one that nobody ever does, and that is learning how to fly around obstacles. Houses are very unpredictable, and as you may have noticed, your bird will just randomly crash into people if they suddenly show up out of doorways and they don't really know how to maneuver. Oftentimes, birds in houses don't encounter that many obstacles as often as they would in the wild, so they'll just fly from point A to point B with a very clear shot path. They don't really have to think while they're flying. They'll do more of the thinking as they plan out the route before they take off. This exercise helps your bird see an obstacle in front of them and decide how to move around it. So all we're going to do is pick one easy obstacle and just recall our bird. What obstacle you choose is entirely dependent on what you have laying around. I had a tree stand that we made not too long ago that was going to be the perfect height for this, so I just stood that in the middle of the room and had recalled Newt around this object. You could also hang things off of your ceiling, you could stand pool noodles up, you could stand up a vacuum. Whatever you have that's going to be a decent height for your bird to be able to fly towards and go around. To start this, we're going to make sure that we're encouraging our birds to land on our hand and not on the object that we want them to go around. Because I'm using this tree here, Newt has a very high reinforcement history of going and landing on it and being safe and sound. So I'm going to sit here and take the time to reinforce Newt flying near it but landing on my hand, not the tree. So I'm going to start just a little bit in front of it, move to the side, and gradually work my way until I'm able to stand behind the tree, and Newt will know to fly around it and land on me instead. If Newt does happen to mess up and land on the perch instead, I'm just going to go ahead, get him to finish off the recall, and put him right back at the start. He's going to start realizing that landing on the tree when I'm calling him doesn't yield rewards. Landing on my hand straight away earns those reinforcements instead. As Newt gets better at this, I'm going to make it a little bit more challenging. I might move myself a lot lower and ask him to recall down below the tree. I might actually get him to weave between some of the branches. I'm going to get him to take a wide variety of routes and change the way that I'm positioned so he has to think more about how he's going to maneuver himself around these objects. For this exercise, we're starting with just one very simple, plain, flat obstacle, something that isn't going to move, something that's pretty solid, something that's easy for them to analyze. When birds are first learning to control their flight, it's very tricky, it's a very difficult thing. It requires a lot of fine-tuned muscle control that a lot of pet birds don't have in a common household. So you don't want to go ahead and use something that's going to swing and move and be unpredictable, or that's going to blow when they flap their wings. You want the object to be something that is solid so they can think about how they're going to fly, learn those movements, gain that muscle control, and then you can move on to those more advanced things. For teaching Newt how to go in between these branches here, I'm going to show him how to do it. I did a couple little demos and tried just recalling him to see if he would try it, but unfortunately he did decide just to land on the tree instead. So to make this communication a little clearer for him, I'm going to put my hand between all of the branches so it's easy for him just to fly straight to it and land. I'm going to gradually move my hand further and further away so he has to fly through the branches just a little bit before reaching my hand, and gradually we'll be able to back up so I'm on the other side of the tree, recrawling him, and he'll be able to fly between those branches and land on my hand. When doing this exercise, get creative with it. Use a bunch of different shapes. Have your bird going between things, under things. Have them learn how to kind of bring their wings in and go between obstacles without smacking into them. Gradually decreasing the distances of these objects and having a variety of things for them to go around will help develop all that fine-tuned muscle control and help them think a little more critically about the paths that they take when they fly. And that's going to do it for today's video. As always with flight exercises, do be careful not to overwork your bird. Your sessions should end with your bird being super eager to recall, with your bird flying to you very excitedly, very happily. You do not want your bird panting or drooping their wings or otherwise showing signs of fatigue and exhaustion. If you're working your bird to that point, it is very possible that they will hurt themselves, they could strain their muscles, they could even pass out while flying. Do be sure that you are taking things slow and that your bird is eagerly participating the entire way through. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. If you would like a part 3, let me know. I do have a couple more exercises I could absolutely do a video on. I just don't want to do too many if you guys aren't particularly interested in it. But that's going to do it for today. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.